Awesome. Well, welcome everybody back to another episode of Beyond the Box. My name is Mike McAra. I am your host, and I am thrilled once again to be joined by another phenomenal guest. This time, Lucas Roeder. I hope. How do I say that? Roeder. Roeder. Lucas Roeder. Thank you. Co-founder, and CEO of Valcre. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate the time.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, we might as well jump right into it. So let's pretend I'm on the trade show floor. I bump into you and I'm like, hey, Lucas, what do you do?
Well, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Valcre, and Valcre is the premier appraisal software solution for commercial real estate appraisers, really taking the pain out of appraisals. It's an online platform that has a database that tracks jobs, contacts, properties, and comparables, and links that into their appraisal workflow within Word and Excel, and helps them create beautiful looking, elegant appraisal reports.
Amazing. So for somebody who doesn't know what an appraisal report is, where you are, give me a little bit of the background on how you ended up in the chair that you are. So I was looking at your LinkedIn a little bit before, and you were obviously with Colliers to start off. So maybe talk me through your time with Colliers to start.
Sure. Can I give you a bit of a genesis story of how I got here? Started working at the precursor to Colliers, which was PGP Valuation in Portland, working there as an analyst, helping to write commercial real estate appraisals. And that process was really found that it was kind of tedious and a lot of mundane tasks, and the technology they were using wasn't really kind of up to speed to what I thought it could be. So started to build my own technology, and through building the technology, I was making myself and my team much more efficient, to the point that executive leadership kind of saw what was going on and said, hey, we don't really quite understand what you're doing, because technology is kind of this weird thing that's going on, and which can you help us to build out the technology platform for Colliers, and to help expand their kind of valuation and advisory business line across the US. They were more focused on the West Coast, and they were moving more towards being a more dominant player in the appraisal space. So spent the next 6 years building out their platform, training all of their new users, getting them up to speed, and really expanding the awareness, and they expanded to somewhere between 50 to 60 offices, which was a lot of dots on the map. So a lot more work coming in the door. Their team expanded, and then kind of became a matter of, well, this is great for one company, but how do we expand this and provide more value to the industry and help more appraisers out there, because the commercial real estate market is incredibly fragmented, and there's a lot of small little players, and they need great technology as well, so that they can not only compete with those larger players, but also deliver exceptional results to the industry and to their clients, because that's really what the industry needs. So spent nights and weekends building Valcre out, and spending a lot of time just going through the motions of building out a new platform that was really geared towards the industry as a whole. And then in 2016 we launched Valcre, and since then we've been selling B2B to small to medium sized commercial real estate companies here in the US, Canada, and Australia.
That's amazing, because one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with is that entrepreneurship, where you actually have to innovate from within. So I'm curious on your experience of that genesis of, let's create this technology internally, and what that looks like contrasted to, where ultimately you cut the cord, go your own way, and then you're an entrepreneur, on the outside and doing it your own way. Like maybe speak to that initial process a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting process, especially because Colliers was very entrepreneurial in terms of they really would empower a lot of their folks to go out and try to figure things out, and be on the cutting edge. And so I was kind of given a lot of leeway to do so, and started building out that technology. And once we found something that worked, it was a matter of providing that environment where I could help build out that entire platform, and really started providing value to, the rest of the appraisers at Colliers. And, they were able to increase their, average billings by, a large percentage. We'll sort of keep it at that for the moment.
Yeah. So one of the key challenges that companies have with technology as an outsider is getting adoption, right? They're like, let's go land a Colliers, let's go land a CBRE, and then everybody's just going to use the technology. What was it like on the inside? Was that a challenge as well, adoption?
Yeah, it was really tough. I mean, I don't think appraisers are unique in the real estate industry in that they, really don't like change at all. It's very hard for them to swallow. And, it was a tough play to really push, hey, we've got this new technology, but thankfully the executive leadership inside of Colliers was on board and was ready to push forward with new technology. And we had a lot of, champions inside of the organization who were championing the product and were, not only proving that they were building more, but they were also, talking about it and telling, the rest of their team members and other offices, like, this is the direction we're going. And it became a pretty easy process once, we really got the dominoes to fall and, people sort of understood that this was a really big value add internally.
It's that true, bottom up, top down approach where you get, the early adopters and they start building the case studies, but then you also have senior leadership on side. And, I think that's one of the things that people always talk about in tech is how do you get big organizations to adopt and take it forward? So transitioning to, you're now an outsider with technology. What would have been the key learnings that you've had from the original process to now when you're dealing with a company that, you don't have the same business card with?
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough, over the last 5 years, we've been clawing our way through the market and bringing on some of those larger, medium-sized businesses all the way up to large enterprises. And, the real key has always been having a really great onboarding platform and being able to, just from the very beginning and onset, be able to describe what's going to happen, how it's going to work, and taking people through that process before you go through it, and really just having a game plan so that people know what to expect, because there's a lot of unknowns, right? People are wondering, hey, is this really going to work? Am I going to lose money? You really don't want to mess with people's paychecks. So you want to make sure that there's a lot of comfort with them in terms of adopting a new platform and really seeing that there's an actual real benefit to them. And a lot of times you say new technology needs to really increase your productivity by 10x before you really are like, all right, cool, I want to do that, and I'm going to take the risk.
So speaking of comfort, you've got a really comfortable job. You're at Colliers. You're doing cool stuff. What gives you the confidence to cut ties and go full all in Valcre?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of different directions. I mean, my wife was definitely a big supporter of, hey, if you think this is a good idea, then let's do it and go forward with it. But beyond that, it was, a lot of people in the industry were saying, hey, this technology you built at Colliers is amazing. Like the rest of the industry needs something like this. So, if you were to build something new that could really address the rest of the market, that would really be something that the industry could benefit from. And so just, kind of the, desire to want to really impact the industry and, make it better really drove me to, really leave that, comfortable job and go be an entrepreneur and, really just struggle through for the first few years.
Do you remember the moment where you decided and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of remember the general timeline, and it was definitely scary. But I think after I did it, I was like, man, what took me so long? I should have done this years ago.
Well, it's an interesting point, I think, in the entrepreneurial journey, because there's so many people that they have the idea, and you can take the idea to kind of testing and concept without having to remove the comforts of whatever else you're doing at the time. And then there's that pivotal moment, right? To jump or not. And when you talk to different entrepreneurs, everybody kind of has that different, what gave me the comfort to commit, right? And family's a big one, right? Customer feedback's quite another, but then it's also confidence in the team. And so one of the things I noticed is that you have a co-founder, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious, what impact has it had for you growing your company as a collective, as a team, as opposed to potentially, if I'm a solopreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I my hats are off to those solopreneurs out there. I think that's probably the toughest, entrepreneurship out there, because if you don't have people to reflect upon and talk through ideas with, it's just really difficult. And I'm really lucky to have co-founders where I can go to them with questions, and they have answers and responses, and they also they don't have the same strengths that I do. They fill in a lot of my weaknesses, and really just having that other founders who can take something and just go with it and not have to worry and trust that they've got it handled is really, tremendous, experience to have as a founder, because you can't do everything alone. As anybody knows, like, you got to build the best team around you, and that starts with your founders.
So how did you find your co-founders?
My founders came through via previous people that I worked with. So one of my co-founders actually hired me out of college. I was his.
Sweet.
Yeah. So Grant Norling, and then Joe Creech was also an appraiser at Colliers who went out on his own. And then Chris Owens, he was he's actually Joe's cousin. So kind of just came through in that capacity. And we're lucky that Chris had 20 years of experience at Microsoft building tools.
Not a bad guy to have on the team.
He's got a really strong depth of experience, and just can really tackle any problem that we throw at him, and it's been a great experience to have.
So you're like, we're gonna do this, we're all in, and now you start talking to customers and you go to the market. What are those first conversations like?
Yeah, so the first conversations that I had were with people that I already knew in the industry. There were people who I had worked with before at Colliers, who then left and went on their own, or people who I met at conferences at through the Appraisal Institute, and really was hitting up those contacts and saying, hey, kind of the technology that I built at Colliers. Here's a new platform that is really geared towards independent appraisers or small to medium-sized businesses. Give it a try. And for a lot of them, it was immediately like, sure, I'll sign up now. Let's do it. Because they needed something that badly, and they knew they had a lot of confidence in what I've done previously. So it was a really easy sell for them to be like, absolutely, sign me up right now. Here's my money.
So you've got that pain nailed, right? You've got the lightning in the bottle. It's not a common story, right, to have this, because a lot of people, they make the jump and then they talk to customers, and the customers are like, well, I don't really, like, I kind of have that problem, but that's more of just a subset. But it sounds like in your case, the more people you talk to, the bigger the problem you found out.
Yeah.
And
really through that time when I was at Colliers, in talking with, thousands of appraisers, I would talk to them, and, they're subject matter experts, right? So they know what their pain points are. And, I lived those pains, myself when I worked at Colliers on the production side, but really just listening to them and figuring out, what do they like? What do they not like? What would improve their lives? What's going to make them faster? And then, filtering out all the noise of, idiosyncrasies and nuances that are just particular to, that person, because everybody has their own sort of, things that they really like and don't like. But you got to find the themes and really synthesize that down to a product that you can deliver to the market, that the market is actually going to accept.
So then you've got the customers giving great feedback, the product, you're building it out. You now have this amazing problem, right? How do we grow fast? Yeah. So talk me through that, that conversation of, we're starting to get revenue. Do we maybe raise some capital? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we launched with $13,000, between the co-founders, and we never raised any more money. We really just grew by the revenue that we were generating from our clients. So really organically, really strategic, and we didn't want to grow too fast because we really didn't want to get over our skis, and we wanted to make sure that we were actually delivering true value to our clients, and we really wanted to give those first few clients the royal treatment of rolling out the red carpet and making sure that all of their pain points were solved. And as we grew more and more, we would find more appraisers and bigger teams with different problems to solve, and we would always make sure that we were tackling those and solving those and putting those in line with our own roadmap of new features that we were creating. And so it's really tough to deliver a product that suits everyone, but we really try and strive for it. But we know that we can't be everything to everybody.
So and I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that we talk a lot about is like the first customer, and what you do for them is not what you're going to do for the 100th customer or the 1,000th customer. So when you were going out and getting those first set of customers, what was the core, I guess, value you were trying to derive internally from that? Was it revenue? Was it engagement? Was it future feature set, current feature set? Like, what were you trying to get out of that first set of customers? And then maybe let's layer that on to, say, the next wave of customers, if you will.
Yeah, I think for us, we were trying to really nail the onboarding process with those first few customers because we knew the product worked. We had already tested it with 1,000 appraisals from our other partners who were beta testing it before we went to the market. So we knew that the product worked really well, but we really wanted to nail that onboarding process and that experience to ensure that we had it nailed down. It was easy for our clients. It was smooth, and it was something that was painless for them because changing their entire workflow can be pretty daunting task and kind of a big disruption to their process. And we want to make it as smooth as possible. So we, migrate their data, we get their, entire platform white labeled and branded up to their spec very quickly, give them training and kind of go through that entire process. And that helped us really build a good foundation for how we would onboard in the future.
So how did you know you had nailed it? Was it people stopped yelling at you, or what was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that we knew that we nailed it is people kept paying every month, right? We weren't locking people into long-term contracts. Most of our clients pay us monthly, and they're not on those long-term contracts because we feel that we don't want to lock them into a contract that they're not happy with. We work for their dollars every month, so both of our we're both aligned towards making those clients happy. They want to continue paying because they want a great product. We want them to keep paying because we want them to have a product that they like to use. And so the way that we knew that we really nailed it is we weren't really hearing from our clients, and they kept paying us. And we would sometimes they'd be really quiet, and I would just check in and be like, "Hey, is everything good?" And they would all be like, "Yeah, everything's awesome. Like, thank you so much. I can't believe the product is this inexpensive." Sometimes they would say that, and it's just kind of it's definitely surprising.
So on that, like, what was that first, and maybe you didn't have it. What was that first like big challenge where you're like, oh, didn't anticipate that, or a big learning where you're like, oh, okay, maybe need to take that one step forward because to your point, you didn't want to get over your skis, but that there's also learning along the way there. So like, what was when you look back on it, what was maybe one or two of those first like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think translating the sales process to an inside sales team was definitely a big challenge that we had to overcome. And you can't have a product that only founders can sell, right? You've got to be able to create something that other people can sell so that that it's not something that's just unique to you. And really nailing that process. And appraisers are tough to sell to. The average age of an appraiser in the industry is 60 years old, right? So you're dealing with somebody who's much more senior in the industry. They've got a lot of experience, and they've been doing it a certain way for many, many years. And now you're trying to come in and sell them a product that you're saying is going to help them do appraisals faster and save them time. And really just nailing that process so that we could convey our value proposition to them.
So when did you know that you needed to expand to your sales team? Because that's also another challenge, right? It's like, especially if you're crushing it and you're closing these deals.
Yeah. I mean, it really became, there's just so many other things to do, right? I mean, there's a lot of work to run an entire company and to, build out software and to support it. And, we've been, lucky to kind of grow through over the last 5 years. And, now we've got a team of, 25 full-time people that are working on Valcre, and another, 10 part-time. And, they span the whole gamut from customer support to client experience to developers to QA. And it's just it's phenomenal to have a team around you where you can trust and rely on them and really just know that they've got the process down because you laid the groundwork for them.
So and that brings up another interesting, especially in the world post-COVID, is HR and bringing in those team members. How has your experience been with growing the team from essentially 3 co-founders to a group of 25? What would have been some surprises and some things along the way? And what's your view on, say, remote versus in the office?
Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting one. The 4 co-founders, we're all in different locations, right? So my CTO and co-founder is in Seattle. I'm in San Diego, so we're already starting from a remote perspective. And we built Valcre from the very beginning to be remote first. And when COVID hit, we didn't even skip a beat. It was just kind of like business as usual because nobody had to change their lifestyle and their workflow. We've got a team spread out all over the US. We've got a development team in Ukraine. We've got a support team down in Peru. And really what this allows us to do is it's allowed us to grow with a very conscious mind of what our spend is. So we're very capital efficient, and we're able to make those hires in areas where, maybe the cost of living isn't as high, but it also allows us to take the best talent from the world instead of saying, hey, we're going to grab the best talent from San Diego, and if you don't live here, then that's just too bad, right? And so we've always just had a culture of, let's hire the best people from, and wherever they are, it doesn't matter. We have the culture ingrained into our company to, make sure that we have conversations and, we're communicating with each other via Slack or Zoom meetings or whatever it may be. And we've always done that from the very beginning. So it's very different than, what people were doing, 3-4 years ago, but now is very common, and people are kind of really gravitating towards that because they really see that the culture you can still foster, and it just creates a better work-life balance for a lot of folks because they have that freedom and autonomy.
So it also means that you don't get to sleep because you're in every time zone.
I don't sleep much.
I mean, the life of an entrepreneur, right? But to I guess segue off of that, just as a slight detour here. So you have a development team in Ukraine. Now, one of the things that people talk about a lot about is, do I go external for my development team? What gave you the confidence to go external like that?
I think the thing that made us have a lot of confidence was, very strong co-founder Chris as a CTO who understands, full stack development and had built out half of the product, right? And had built out the other half. And so we already kind of knew what we needed to build. We didn't need to go and find developers to like build something specific. And we started small, right? We started with one developer. We gave him one small project that, was somewhat agnostic to, prop tech or commercial real estate in general. It was like something, a small feature in the system that any sort of SaaS platform would need. And so as we, really grew from there, it was a matter of just adding more people to that team and, really making sure that they knew how to ingrain in the culture and ingrain in the team.
Love it. Love it. So going back to something you mentioned earlier, COVID, you're in commercial real estate, appraisals, COVID hits. You're telling me you didn't have one sleepless night?
No, I didn't really have too many sleepless nights. I mean, it was
well, it's because you don't go to sleep.
Yeah. Just for a few hours, just a little bit of shut eye.
That's right.
In the beginning of COVID, it was really, people didn't know what was going to happen. And, within the first week or two of things kind of going crazy throughout the world, I had a meeting with my entire team and I was like, look, I don't want you guys to worry about anything. Nobody's getting, laid off. Nobody's, nothing's changing. Like I'm making the commitment to you guys. Like I'm going to keep all of you on board. If anything, we're going to expand and we're going to double down and we're going to take this as an opportunity to continue to grow our team and expand our offering to the market. And so that really instilled a lot of comfort for, our team and, really let them know that we were standing behind them. And I think that's really important when you've got a lot of unknowns going on. And then, within the market itself, a lot of appraisers were kind of, the work dried up because no financial markets were really moving, right? And so appraisers are really busy when the market's going up and they're really busy when the market's going down. But when the market's in free fall and nothing's really happening, appraisers are not busy at all. And they're kind of just wondering like, what's going on? Like who turned off the faucet? How do we get it moving again? And, luckily, after a month or two, things started to loosen up and, the financial markets started to loosen and, more lending was happening. And, then, since then, the market's been on fire and, all of our clients are insanely busy and, they're talking about turn times that were double, what normal is, instead of a 3-week turn time, they're quoting 6 weeks and, fees are going up. And it really just points to a bigger issue in the industry where there's just not enough commercial real estate appraisers to do the work that's needed.
Right. So on that, you're coming out of COVID, you're growing, things are ramping up, and then you enter Reach. Talk me through the thought process on, going into like something like Reach. And, I'm wearing my Beyond the Box hat right now.
Yeah, well, we saw, joining the Reach program as a really strategic initiative to us so that we could, help to expand our own knowledge and understanding of the market, but really be able to, talk to a lot more commercial real estate brokers and be able to understand that side of the market. So, we know that, investment sales brokers go through a similar process when they're putting deals together that appraisers are going through on the back end when they're doing that appraisal. So, we saw it as an opportunity to get in front of brokers and be able to present to them a valuation platform that was really, on the cutting edge of technology that could really streamline their process. And so joining Reach was just something that, it was a natural fit, and we're incredibly lucky to have been accepted, and it's been great to meet the entire team and really just build those new relationships across the industry.
Which brings up another interesting point is the view of partners. So obviously selling direct to the customer is one thing. How have you approached the partnership channel, especially in the commercial real estate space, given the dynamics at play?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have any channel partners directly at this point, just because we're selling, business to business, and there's not a lot of channel partners that I think appraisers necessarily trust, because they're kind of, in some regards, they're seen as the public trust, right? They're looking out for, the entire industry, and they're kind of seen as unbiased and, trying to give their opinion a value. But we haven't really had too many channel partners to date. I mean, obviously we would love to add some on there, because it obviously makes it a lot easier for us to sell the product. But because of, the industry is so fragmented, and appraisers have the ability to choose whatever software and whatever technology they want to use, it can make that kind of difficult sometimes.
That is the opportunity and yet the challenge at the same time, which is the beauty of the industry on that. So rounding things out here. So, you're very valuable in a number of different sub verticals, I should say, within the space. What are you most excited for in the next, 12 months going forward with Valcre here?
Yeah, so we're excited to continue to add on some bigger clients in the industry, and some of those medium-sized clients as well. But really continuing to solve appraisal problems, and solve problems that no one else is solving in the market, and problems that we think can be addressed and really incorporated into our own product to help appraisers worry less about some of the business aspects of what they're doing, and really focus on what they love, which is valuing commercial real estate, right? I mean, nobody likes to get bogged down in all the other sort of tasks of running the business. They want to just focus on what they love, which is real estate.
So last question, maybe, I think. Tell me about the logo.
The logo was designed by Chris, my co-founder. We went through a bunch of iterations, and really it's supposed to kind of represent some wings, relevant to Norse mythology and the Valkyrie.
I like it. How do you have the originals, like the original sketches on the wall somewhere?
Yeah, we have the original sort of genesis of, hey, we've got a bunch of logos here. We want to make something that's kind of similar, and just kind of all of those photos. We still have those locked away here.
So fun. So on that, Lucas, if I'm an appraiser or somebody who wants to get in touch with Valcre, what's the best way?
Yeah, best way is just come to our website, schedule a demo, or email us at sales@valcre.com, or you can always email me direct at lucas@valcre.com.
Or just track down that awesome logo at some trade show. I feel like you're at everything. So
yeah, just look for the V.
That's right. All right, sir. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was an absolute pleasure. Love the story, and look forward to seeing what's next with Valcre.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate your time.